I want anyone who's been through what I've been through or anything similar to know this. It's time to take your power back. It's time to find your voice. It's time to start being happy and living again. This isn't about them. It isn't about anyone else. This is about you. Finding your voice, keeping it, and never letting anyone silence it again. It's about reclaiming your power, loving yourself, and living your life to the fullest. Hey YouTube, welcome to my channel. Welcome to All Things Indigo. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate all the people who basically watching this, and I'm hoping that you guys get something out of my real life storytelling and things like that. That is my main purpose for this channel. Also, I wanted to let you guys know I wasn't able to do a video yesterday because I wasn't feeling that well. I was going through some things. I am, perimenopause. I'm 47 years old, so yeah, things are starting. I know some people start earlier, some people start later, but yeah, sometimes it be rough. No. But so today I wanted to talk about um my other son. My Well, he's not really, like, he's not my biological son. He was like a son to me. And I'm talking about my cousin, my mother's brother's son. So he was born about 36 years ago. Um, when he was born, I loved his mother. Um, she was a wonderful person at the time, although I thought, um, and everything. She had him in, I believe, 1986. Um, and from the beginning, he was just, adorable, lovely, everything. Um, his parents were on drugs at that time. So let me just say the reason why I'm telling the story, because this is a part of, he is and was very much a part of my life. Um, so his parents were on drugs when they had him. So he was a drug baby. Um, but he was just the cutest little thing ever. And they couldn't afford, or maybe just didn't want to buy a crib for him. So he slept in a drawer. Not, inside, they took a drawer out, put some blankets down, and he slept in that for the first, I guess, couple of months. Um, yeah, he slept in the drawer and everything like that. But from the beginning, me and my sister, my biological sister, the one that I haven't spoken to in quite a few years, um, we would watch him when they wanted to get high. We would watch him and everything like that. Remember, we all well, I'm not going to say remember because some of you guys probably new here. So, yeah, my other stories, part one, part two, part three, somewhere in there, I talked about us all living together, me, my sister, my mother, my two uncles, and my grandmother. And then he was the addition, then the my little cousin. So we lived together for some time when he was younger, things like that. Okay, fine. When we moved to the next, when we moved on, they didn't move with us initially, and then they eventually came to our permanent place because we were in a shelter. Where that first place where he was born, it was a shelter. Then we moved to the second shelter, but they wasn't with us. Then we moved to our permanent place. Me, my mom, and my sister. And a while after that, I don't want to say they moved with us. I believe they just were staying there for some time. And my uncle, his girlfriend, who was my cousin's mother. Um, I began to, so we basically, me and my sister, used to basically keep him, although the parents was there and everything like that. We would basically keep him. We bathed him. Now, mind you, we're all of like I said, like 8, 9, something like that. Maybe even 10. I'm not sure the age, but we bathed him, we fed him, things like that. Later on, I discovered that his mother was she became a prostitute to, I guess, to buy more drugs and things. So where my room was at, you can look out the back window where all the prostitutes used to, basically do their thing, I guess, look for the Jones and everything. So my uncle would often look, he was basically a pimp. He would look out the window and to watch her at times, so she could stroll up and down, and then he would go get her, like things like that. Or sometimes he would go out there with her. I would be nosy, look out the window. I would see them on the corner, whatever. But either way, we would watch him, put him to sleep, feed him, things like that. Me and my sister. Um, so that happened for some years and everything. He grew up. My grandmother ended up getting a place, and that's where he had end up. That's where they ended up, because my uncle didn't have his own place. He was still living very much with my grandmother. So the place she moved to, when she got her own place, both of my uncles, the girlfriend, she lived there too. So he basically grew up. Well, no, well she left. No, she left. His mother had left. She went on to whatever. I don't know what happened. I know my uncle was very abusive to her physically as well, and she left eventually, and I don't know what happened to her for some time. But she would come periodically. She would come and try to visit and things like that, and then leave and stuff. So um, for the most part, in the beginning, my cousin was being brought up by my grandmother. So he was in private school. She put him in private school and everything. He was doing well. He was doing well. Then, like I said in one of my previous videos, they caused my grandmother to lose her place because they didn't help pay rent. My uncle ended up going to jail for 5 years. My cousin's my cousin's my cousin's father ended up going to jail for 5 years. When he came back, he was no longer on drugs. But by that time, like I said, my grandmother had lost her place. She was living basically with me. Well, at first with my sister, then with my mother, with me, and everything And then all the while, mind you, in between this time, that we didn't know she, well, later on she had breast cancer and stuff like that. She didn't tell us, or she probably didn't even know in the beginning either. But yeah, they came to live with us, and I remember asking, oh no, I was asking because the mother came one time. I think my cousin was like probably 9 or 10. I'm not sure. Like I said, it is, this is, the time is, they happened some years ago, and it's going to be a little gray. But I remember his mother came to visit, and my mother wouldn't let her in. My mother was pissed off with her, talk like da da da. She basically chased her away. My mother really was vicious with her, volatile even. And I asked my grandmother, well, why couldn't she come and see him? And come to find out, my grandmother, um, my grandmother told us that she just cannot see him anymore. He cannot go with her because she used to take him. She had started taking him for like the weekend and everything like that. She was trusted to take him for the weekend, and my grandmother just told me like she couldn't do it anymore. Like she couldn't visit him. She could no longer see him. And I'm like, well, why? Young and everything. So my mother, leave it up to my mother to be raw and uncut. She basically told me that I don't know if my sister was around, but she told me that his mother had been. He told my grandmother his mother had been molesting him. That's why my mother was very volatile with her. And needless to say, she had came around a few weeks later, and I was very volatile with her. But yeah, chased her away, um, and we didn't see her for a long time after that. Um, as they were going on and everything, he started, once he became a teenager, he was in and out. Like he started hanging with the wrong crowd. His father, after he got out of jail, he was around for a little bit, but then he had met someone else, and he basically, that was his life. Like that was his that the lady he met had two kids. That was his life. He no longer really took care of his son. He is, I don't know why. So my grandmother did the best she could, but like I said, he was a teenager by this time, running the streets, got into a gang and everything like that, unbeknownst to me at the time, but like just knowing when I look back, well, actually, he told me when he got older. I'm lying. He told me when he got older, because he said that was his family. That was his family because his father no longer wanted to. But I'm jumping the gun. Let me go back. So when just a little fast forward, when I moved out, I lost contact with him for a while. Things like that. I had I was in my marriage and things like that. So, you know, I was basically secluded from everyone, alienated and everything. So, which I alienated myself, because due to, well, anywho, yeah, so, I lost touch with him for a while. I would ask about him here and there. Um, my grandmother would say, like, my mother, he started staying with my mother. He would come and go. At that time, my grandmother was staying with my sister. So, but my cousin was still staying with, like, back and forth, well, with my mother. My sister, my biological sister didn't allow just any and everybody, even the cousin. She didn't want any extra people staying with her. So my cousin wasn't allowed to stay with her. At that time, like I said, he was back and forth with at my mother's house, but still running the streets, getting in trouble. He started getting locked up, things like that. Hanging with the wrong crowds and stuff, just trying to find himself, I assume. And then after a while, he started offering to staying with me. Once me and my husband parted ways and everything, he started staying with me, and like off and on. I took care of him, make sure you need clothes, stuff like that. Just get yourself together. I was just trying to help him, like, really get himself together. So he was like, yeah, I'm going to go back to school, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Okay, fine. He would leave. We wouldn't hear from him a couple of weeks, um and then he would show back up. So the last time he showed up, so mind you, I was taking care of him off and on for 15 years after, so the next time he showed up with a girlfriend, and she was nice and everything. He ended up started he showed up with a girlfriend. They stayed for like a week or two. No, only a week. Only a week, and they stayed, and she was, like I said, she was a sweetheart and everything, but I noticed how he was talking to her. He had begun to be abusive to his woman. Um, so they went back. She had her own place. This one had her own place. She had a daughter as well. They went back to her place and stuff and stayed. Um, so I later found out that she she was selling herself, and my cousin was her pimp, and then his friends had girls there too. She basically turned her place into a place for, um, I guess, some young girls that wanted to be, that were pimped out, and things like that. I'm not gonna just, get into further business. Just needless to say that I called his phone one day, and the cops were there, and they were like, basically, I think they thought I was like a prostitute or something, because I called his phone, and they picked up and was like, yeah. I said, where's, such and such, I said my cousin's name, and they were like, he's here, come on, come upstairs. So I'm like, what's going now? Let me just say this. I know certain voices. If I might not remember your name, but I'm gonna know voice. Not that his voice was memorable. but it was cop like. Let me just say that. It definitely was cop like. So he's like, nah, come in. Well, why don't you come upstairs? 'Cause I'm like, I said, what's going on? I said, you're a cop. I know I understand. I hear your mannerisms. You're a cop. So he's like, okay, well, this is detective. Da, da, da. There was a bus, and stuff like that for soliciting and this and other prostitution and all that. And he's like, your cousin is going to jail. Because I was like, my cousin, he was like, he's going to jail. Da 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 da. And this is, the precinct, whatever. Okay, fine. Um, After that, of course he didn't, I guess they let him out. I don't know how long it was. I don't remember, but they let him out. They went back and forth for a while. They went back to the situation. I don't know how she got the place back. I'm not even sure she got the place back, but I know, um, she ended up because me and his girlfriend became close. So she would call me and everything like that. And she told me that he basically was dealing with one of the other prostitutes, and she was crying and everything. She was like, this is crazy. But I feel like, sadly, she was one of those young ladies that didn't have a voice. Her voice was taken from her, so she didn't speak up for herself. So she allowed it, and she put up with it, that he was sleeping with someone else in the place, and she allowed it. But whatever happened, they parted ways. I think his girlfriend got another boyfriend or pimp or whatever. Fine. My uncle showed up. I mean, my cousin showed up to my place after a while with the girl and her son. So he asking can they stay with me, because he didn't no longer have anywhere to stay. And he was like, for like a week at first. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let y'all stay. And mind you, I don't have no room, so they had to sleep in my living room. This was one of the times where I didn't, like I said, I didn't have a voice and everything. I said yes to any and everything, almost, you know. Um, so I let them stay there. They all three slept on the couch, which was crazy to me. I didn't understand it. They all three slept on. It was one sofa, like it was long, so I guess they made it work. And so they stayed there, and then end up saying like, well, if we pay you, can we stay a little longer? So I'm like, I needed the money. So I'm like, okay. I wanted my own space back, but I'm like, I needed the money. They was willing to pay $40 a piece. So, I'm like, yeah, what I'm saying? I could use that little money, So I let them stay, and they would leave out 4 o'clock in the morning. I end up watching. It's like the cycle was continued, because remember I said I was watching my uncle's son when he was a baby, and then I ended up watching his girlfriend's son, and while they went out and she was prostituting. So what happened was, you know they didn't want to clean up, and no, let's do this. You have to do this. You have to clean the quarters. You clean your quarters. Also, I'm not going to be cooking all the time. So, yeah, and so she did. She didn't mind. She was another sweetheart. And then one day, they had a bad fight. I mean, a bad fight to where my kids was there. So um he was like, basically, like they were arguing at first, and she was coming to the back. She was calling me and everything like that, screaming my name and everything. And I came out the room like, what's going on? What's going on? He like, this, da, 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 da. She gave me herpes. She gave me herpes. Yeah. And then so he tried to grab her, and I jumped on his back. And when I tell you, I was smaller then, so don't look at me. Nah, but when I tell you that this young man, my cousin, was so strong, he was walking towards her with me on his back. And I'm like, oh crap. I'm like, oh crap. How am I supposed to stop him? So I jumped, I got off his back, and I ran and got in front of her. She was a little petite thing, you know. My cousin was like 6'1", so I'm like, you're not gonna hit her in my house. And I'm like, my kids is here. I'm trying to calm him down, like saying, my kids is here. Like, what are you doing? And so I'm telling my kids, go in the room, and they close their doors. And I'm like, no, you gotta go. This cannot be. So I don't know where they went after that, because she went right along with him, like wherever they went. And I guess like after for a while they was together, and after that, I ended up moving. So by that time, I ended up moving. Once they left, like I think I don't know, a few months later, I ended up moving. So the new place I lived, he ended up coming after a while. I don't know if it was months, probably was months, because he like that's how it would go off and on. And when he came, he told me he wanted to get himself together. He didn't want to be that person no more. Um, he wanted me to help him, get himself to. He basically was playing me like I was one of them ladies that he was, out there in the streets with, all that. He and one of these girls that he was dealing with told me she was like, that's how they talk. That's how they talk, they good slick game, now hear me, like what? My own cousin is playing me like I'm some stranger, but like even I'm still jumping ahead of the ball. Um, I believed him. Um, See, my cousin, because he was like a drug addict baby and things like that, and everything, he was messed up in the head a little bit, here, like not to the point where he wasn't coherent, like, or like can be in society, right? Um, I took him to the hospital because he had like a I don't know, mental something. I took him to the hospital. They told me I had to take him to another hospital because that hospital didn't deal with people that's having like breakdowns and stuff. So after that, he was like, let's just go tomorrow. Okay, fine. Um, got him something to eat, got him some new clothes, helped him like apply for SSI and stuff. Just was trying to help him get on his feet, and yeah. Um, he didn't do that. He basically, I was giving him money. I did. He just was like another child, you know. So gave him money and everything. And he disappeared for a while after that. He disappeared for a while after that. Came back, right, and to my new place, mind you. And he came with a friend one night, and this friend was like, first of all, because he looked dingy, a little dirty. Um, his friend was like a little bit, his energy was giving me like, um I don't want him in here because my kids are here, you know. So he was like, yeah, Red, da, da, da. He went in the bathroom. His friend pulls out a whole bag of pills, like, yeah, this is ecstasy. He's all like, weird, jittery, and you want some? I said, oh no. I called my cousin. Get him out of my house. Get him out. He like, yo, what are you doing? My cousin come out, yo, what are you doing? Are you serious? Like, what the heck is wrong with you? What the F is wrong with you? Like, da da da. How dare you pull that out of my cousin's house and stuff like that? And I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. He was like, yo, go in the hallway, go in the hallway. So my cousin, he had clothes here. That's what he was doing. He was changing his clothes and everything. So I allowed him to do that, and I was like, don't you ever bring anybody like that to my house again, or you cannot come back. And he was like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And so okay, they left, and I'm just like, pissed off at that. But anywho, after a while, he came back and asked me could he stay, and I let him stay. I let him stay, and I just noticed that yeah, he was um he was getting a little worse. I I didn't so I didn't allow people to smoke cigarettes and things in my house, in my apartment. So he would go in the hallway and smoke. Every time he would go to take a smoke break like 3 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. I'm popping up, you know, because I didn't. He's my cousin, and I practically raised him. So I know he didn't have his father, mother, anybody. By this time, my grandmother she had passed away. He didn't have anybody. Um, and I'm just like, so I'm trying to, be there for him. He had nobody else. My mother, was on drugs, so she not worrying about him. She tried to charge him rent. You know, so I tried to be there for him, but like I said, I noticed he was getting worse. It's 3 o'clock in the morning going out. Every time the door will open, I'm, jumping up to see. Like, I realized that I didn't, I started like really like I was just like, it's not gonna work out. This is not gonna work out. Um, what happened was I went to his not it's like a Snapchat, and I saw he wrote, yeah, I was with two girls with two ecstasy pills, and it made for a wonderful night or something like that. He said he was high. And I said, oh no, you gotta go. You gotta go. So he was like, oh, all right, Red, he was like, all right. And he left. So okay, fine. A few months later, he came back, stayed with me. Now this time he was playing me a little bit too well, you know, a little bit too. He came back this time with money, you know, groceries, things. He's like, can I just stay for a little while? I got myself together. He showed me a wad of money, and he was like, he's saving to get an apartment, a room. I'm like, okay, okay. Whatever happened, you went and did it. Okay, fine. So started staying with me. Okay, but he would go out every now and then and everything like that. I'm going to go visit this girl I know, whatever, whatever. You know, oh, he was like really filling up my refrigerator, right? He was really like, I'm talking about frozen stuff I didn't have a deep freezer by then, so frozen stuff that couldn't even fit in my refrigerator. I had to put it in the freezer, frozen stuff that couldn't fit in the freezer. I had to put in the refrigerator and turn the refrigerator up to try to keep it cold. Man, when I tell you, I found out this man was stealing from a discount store, like a Dollar Tree or something. He was stealing all of this stuff, right? And I just noticed that he started like talking in his sleep, just little stuff and everything, like just weird and everything. And I'm like, oh Lord, whatever. So one day he was like, I was having a cookout, so he was like, can I was having a barbecue because um he was like, can I bring my little friend? So I'm like, yeah, you can bring her, of course. So she comes, how you doing? Da da da. I'm noticing she a little different. She ain't giving me the vibe like the other two was giving me. And so he was like, yeah, she too tired to go home because she spent the night with me. Yeah, I go because I'm outside having a good time. We still outside till 3, 4, 5 in the morning. So yeah, of course, whatever. Just make sure y'all quiet, whatever, whatever, because the kids go upstairs early. Kids are a little older than by now. And so yeah, I goes to sleep and I wake up and I'm hearing crying and screaming. I get up, so I'm like, I hear him say, shut the fuck up, but he trying to say it low, shut the f up. And I'm like, what's going on out there? What are you doing? Like, and she like, no, I gotta go. This is crazy. Da, da, da. And he like, I go running out there, and so he just sitting there on the bed, like nothing's going on, nothing. She like, no, no. He's trying to. He hit me. He kept hitting me. He tried to throw me. He tried to squeeze me out your bars. She was like, he tried to push my head through the window bars in your kitchen. And I'm like, what? Like what? So I'm like, child. I said, this is not. I said, you want to go ahead and go. And I told him, like, I don't understand what you doing, but you bringing this stuff to my house, and my kids is here. And he like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. So she goes, and I have a precinct right next to me, and for some reason, something was telling me to look out the window. I look out the window and I see policemen coming in my building. So I'm like, now I said, I believe she called the police on you. I said, that's what you get. He runs out the house. He runs out the house, and sure enough, 4 big old police knocks on my door, and they're like, yeah, we got a domestic violence call. We want to know where he at. And I'm like, come in the house. Yeah. He ran when he found out y'all was coming. Uh, because let me tell you something. I don't care who you are. If you're bringing drama and trauma to my door, you're going to get you have to, like, yeah, you know, you bringing this stuff, and I'm thinking to myself, I live in NYCHA. I'm thinking they're going to get reports and everything, like, and then there's going to be problems, but thank God it wasn't. So he comes back. Oh, I hit on the roof. What? You got to go. Take your stuff and go. Take your stuff and go. He takes his stuff and goes. Cops came back in one more time. Like I said, he does not live here. They were spending the night. I had a barbecue. I showed them the grill still in the kitchen, and the water's juice is still in the deep. I mean, the cooler, everything. Like, so, um, yeah. So, like I said, he left, whatever the case may be, and then few months later, he came back, and this time um well, throughout all of this time, I end up one day I was worried about him, because I always worried about him, where he was at, what he was doing, because he was my baby too, in that way. He was my baby. I know he didn't have anybody else. So I always worried about him. So I looked up, like, just looked at put some information in, looked up, I see that he was in Pennsylvania. Um he was, doing petty crimes, petty thefts and things like that. So he was locked up here and there, stealing clothes, and I guess, trying to survive and stuff. And he eventually came back and was really, really messed up. He also stayed in Bellevue. Like, yeah, he stayed in, mental hospitals. And he did come back every time. But let me just say this. Although he was going through these mental things and stuff like that and doing these things, he never, but did he, okay, so to up into the time, he never got flipped with me. He's always had a calm demeanor towards me, right? All of this, my kids, they love him, everything. He's like a brother. He played the game with them, and the video games and stuff. um but this time he came. I just had came from food shopping. I'm exhausted. Like, so he comes, he's like, I have to tell you something. So I'm like, what? He's like, they're setting fires everywhere outside, right? They're setting fires everywhere. And he was like, yeah, they put a chip in my brain. And I'm like, I'm not gonna lie. I was so exhausted. I said, listen, we're gonna have to talk about this later. Please just get out of my room. And he just laughed and walked away. I'm just like, okay, this is serious. This one right here is serious. Okay. So my sons at the time, then my kids are adults by this time. So my sons, two of my sons were here, and I said, I don't want you to go to work in the morning. I'm gonna need you guys to stay here. Because my cousin, he did leave out, so he was going, and I said, I'm gonna need you guys to stay here, because I have to tell. Um, now before he left out, let me just say that night, he was in the bathroom with a soda bottle in the dark, talking to himself. That was scary. It was like, what is going on? Like, what happened to my baby? What happened to my cousin? And anywho, the next day he came in. I was sitting at the table with my youngest daughter. We were cutting up potatoes. And I said, listen, my sons was in the room. I said, listen, you can no longer stay here. I'm going to need you to take your things and go. Whoa. His eyes lit up. Arr, 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 you da 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 da. I told you they setting fires outside. I told you, and all of them, they're gonna get you. And it just, like, it flipped the switch. And I'm like this, and I'm holding a knife. I'm just like, my sons hear him yelling. They come out the room. He runs up to one of my sons like, that be, and my son said, what? And then, I guess he wasn't too far gone because he changed that. And he was like, I'm telling you, I can't believe it. I'm gonna get everybody, all the females I see, I'm gonna tell them to come up here and beat you up. I'm gonna get them to beat you up. All those fires, look out the window, like just crazy. And mind you, oh, my niece was here as well, and she was very pregnant, very, very pregnant. And she got up off the couch and was like, what's, yeah, I kept everybody. I kept people that wasn't even my kids, you know. But anywho, uh, she was like, what's going on? I said, just call the cops. I just calm down, go sit down and call the cops. I grabbed a bat. My daughter's in the back with a knife. So, all of this commotion and chaos is going on. And I'm just like, I would hate to I love this kid dearly, but I would hate to have to take him out like this. That's what I'm thinking, because it's not going to be me. It's definitely not. After everything I've been through in my life, oh no, oh no. And after everything, and I'm like, after everything he's been through, like, oh, me taking him in, and whatever the case may be. But I had to realize also that he wasn't in his right mind. Um, so mind you, I told him, I said, I called the cops or whatever the case may be. He was like, okay, that's how you want it. He started packing his stuff and everything. And I'm just like, you're going to have to move a little faster, because now, now you got my kids in a rut, rut and everything and stuff like that. So, and my son was like, just let him get his stuff and go. Okay, fine. He grabs his stuff, goes out the door. I locks the door. Okay. Cops didn't even come. 2 hours later, here they come, talking about, we're sorry. They come laughing and smiling. I don't know what they was doing. But I said, oh, it's nice to see you. Like, whatever. I said, he's gone now. It's no reason for you, like, whatever. But then I called them back, and I was like, just let me a restraint order, because I'm thinking, like, I don't know, after this incident, he had my kids scared he had my kids scared to go to school. Like it caused trauma. Something that I never wanted something that I never wanted to happen to him. Stuff, Um, yeah. Um, guess what I found out? So, and the crazy thing, yeah, we didn't see him come out the building with his bags. So I found out that the lady down the hall from me, who was on heroin, let him stay with her. He ended up telling her, because I went and knocked on her door after I found out. He ended up telling her that I went away for 2 weeks. So could he stay there? And she, sure enough, believed the story without even knocking on. I'm a few feet from your door, knocking on my door. So, like I said, when I found out, I knocked on her door and I asked her, why would you do that? You would move someone in. You don't even know this man. I said, you don't know you don't even know if that story was true. He told me you went away for 2 weeks. I said, you see me here all the time, though. You hear my kids all the time. You could have asked me. You could have asked me. You could have knocked on my door to find out if this was true. And I said, not only that, we had a terrible fight. You don't know if this man was laying for me. He could have been laying in your house to come and kill me. I said, he has mental problems. And I said, I'm going to call the cops at your house, since because they're looking for him. So, no, I didn't tell her. I'm like, I didn't tell her. I called the cops to her house because they were looking for him. And after that, I guess he wasn't there. So she comes to, now she want to knock on my door. Now she's knocking on my door. Why did you call the cops to my house? Why did you? I would have never done that. I said, you wanted to get in. You wanted to get into the family business, right? You wanted to get into the family situation. I told you that man is dangerous. I can't predict what he would do to me or my children. I said, my kids are scared to go to school. I have to walk them to school, which is school is one up the block and one across the street. So she was like, I'm sorry. I said, I'm sorry too. And I closed my door. So she was like, yeah. The next day I saw her, she was like, yeah, I'm going to have to get rid of his things. He can't stay with me no more and everything. So I'm like, I don't care what you do. I don't care. I'm like, I washed my hands with that situation. That was it for me. So she did that. She did get rid of his stuff, because he also had left for a while. That's what he does. He don't, he'll buy a whole new wardrobe. He, or whatever, find it. I don't know what but whatever the case may be. she told him he could no longer come back there, I guess, because we never saw him again. And then I have found out that he started posting in every building in my development. He started posting that he had a chip in his head, and they molested him at the hospital and stuff. you know and people were telling me this, like, your cousin, he was posting these weird things in the lobby, and I'm just like, Lord have mercy, Jesus. And I felt so empathetic. I felt so bad and sorry because I didn't know how to help him. I wanted him to get help. I really truly did. And let me tell you how good God is at times. Because um so with the SSI situation, they had to call my house. You know how many times? Let me tell you something. The Social Security people called my house 7 times looking for him to help him out. Looking for him to help him out. And I was just like, I never knew they do that stuff. Call like that, like they to trying to help him. But anywho, um, that was that for a while. So, New Year's Eve, I want to say like 2023 or 22. Um, usually, me and my kids, we start cooking, we get ready, get the hats ready and everything, little apple cider vinegar and things like champagne. Yeah, and but I came down with something. I came down with something. Now, a little cold. I don't know. It felt like flu, maybe. I don't know. If it was like a little bit of the other thing, but whatever have you. It wasn't real bad, but it was bad enough where I felt lethargic. I didn't feel like I felt, but so I tried to go out there and enjoy New Year's Eve with the kids, but I just had to come and lay down. So I came and lay down, and my son was like, "Oh snap, such is at the door." He's talking about my cousin. I said, "Oh no, oh no, no 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 no." So, and he was like, "No, yeah, you can't come in. My mother said no, no," and so he left, no problems, right? And I looked out the window, and the way he was walking away is like he felt like he had nobody else left. Nobody else left. So of course, the empath in me felt so bad. The person who had practically raised him felt horrible. But I have to. He's unpredictable now. The mental illness has gotten bad. It's gotten worse. And on top of that, I came across an article because like I said, I often look for him just to see if he's safe. He was in the newspaper for groping someone. I said, yeah, my baby's, I don't, it's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do for him. He never came back after that. Now we're in 2025. He never came back after that time. I said no. I guess he, felt like, yeah, I didn't burn my bridge for the last time. You know, and yeah, like to this day, I would always want to know like if he's okay. That's my main concern. If he's okay, what is he doing? I haven't heard anything, um, about anybody, because the thing is, I knew it was him because my kids was like, "Are you sure that's him?" First of all, he has a very unique last name. His age at around that time, he was getting ready to turn another age. Another year, and that person, and the picture was clear. Like, my kids didn't want to believe it, and I understand. So it's just so unfortunate because he ended up suffering traumas and things, and just couldn't pull it back, and I just wonder to this day where he is. But I told that story, because like I said, it's a part of my experience, it's a part of my life, things that happened. And this was the family, that I mean, my family, just couldn't get it right. Like, a lot of other families. I just wish, at the time, instead of people thinking like sweeping things under the rug is the right thing to do, that is not the right thing to do. You may think you're saving your family, but you're causing more trauma to be passed down. Um, you know, so we often have to think about the things we do, you know, and the examples we set for our children. Like I said, I didn't set the right examples for my children, and I often hold guilt, you know. I mean, I'm doing better with it because, I understand that situations and certain things weren't my fault. Um, you know, and but I have a wonderful relationship with my kids. I thank God, you know, but for the most part. Um but yeah, that, I don't know where he's at now, and I just pray that he's okay, because when I look up and try to find information on him, I no longer find it. Every time I hear about a male around his age, you know, being found dead or something like that, I just pray it's not him. I'm just praying like he's doing so well, like, or he's gotten the help he needed, something like that, But so that's my story, guys. Thank you for listening. I hope you guys have a blessed and wonderful day, night, evening, year. Talk to you later.